days. At first, I wanted to work like a peasant, to feel the earth between my fingers. But there was no earth in Ashtaol, just rock and stones. You had to scratch for earth. Maybe my friend Demsion was right. Pick stones today and you'll pick potatoes tomorrow, he used to say. Maybe this sounded all right to my son David, who was grazing our goat up on the hill, or running around with the kids playing Samson and the Philistines. But I didn't see it that way. For me it was stones today, stones tomorrow, and stones the day after. I was fed up. It's true I had a house there, but 4 walls and a roof still don't make a home. I couldn't see any way out. But suddenly something occurred to me, something simple. Why couldn't I do what some of the others were doing? They simply packed their bags and went. Days went by until something happened that really made me go. Maybe it sounds like a trifle. It really wasn't anything more than that. The neighbor's baby swallowed some food and it went down the wrong way. The baby choked and there wasn't a drop of water in all those pipes. It happened quite often, but this time I took it differently. My wife hurried to help the neighbor, and so did David. Everyone tried to help. Only I sat there as if I didn't belong to them anymore. Determined. I wouldn't stay a day longer in that stony hole. I'd sell the furniture and move to some other place. I'd come a long, long way to Eshtaol, so I might as well go a little further. But I didn't say a word to David. He'd know in time anyhow. Meanwhile, I let him go on playing his hero Samson, battling 1,000 Philistines in the Judean hills. I sold the furniture was an awful day. The neighbors never said a word, but the way they looked at me made my cheeks burn. But that didn't matter to me. It was David I was really worried about. He seemed to have lost confidence in me. He couldn't understand that it was for him as well that we were leaving. That God-forsaken place had become a home for my child. He tried desperately to delay our departure. He thought I didn't notice how he let his nanny goat off the tether and drove her away into the hills. I didn't stop him because I didn't want any more trouble that day. I hate saying goodbye. I wish to God we were miles away from the place. I felt as though the sky were coming down on my head. Those last moments were as terrible for me as for David. All his friends came to see him off. He must have felt like a traitor. Samson was deserting the men he used to lead into battle. The world must have collapsed for David, but there was nothing I could do about it. There was no return. I'd burnt my bridges. A few hours later, my wife and David and Malka and myself were looking at our new home. A deserted Arab village near the town. God knows there was nothing to brag about, but it seemed all right for a beginning. That's what I thought, at least. David didn't say a word. But I didn't dare look into his eyes. They seemed to say, all this is because you left Eshtaol. All this is because you didn't trust Ben Sion, nor yourself, nor your son. I had a little cash, but it went quickly. I had to borrow money to buy the most essential furniture. To repay the debt, my wife had to work too. But women get used to hard times more easily than men. She never grumbled. While I was away at work, she did the washing for all the families in the village. It was hard work. From day to day, I could see how she wore herself out. It was the same old story as in Eshtaol, but much worse. I was sure he had a plan in his stubborn little head. One evening, coming home by bus, the driver told me David asked him how much the fare to Eshtaol was. I never let him know that I knew his secret. I was sure he'd forget about the village up in the hills. He'd find new friends, and in the end he'd get used to the new place. But in his mind he was already back, chasing his Philistines up and down the rocks. Back to Eshtaol, he obviously needed money. No, he didn't ask me for it, and he was too proud to ask his mother. He wanted to earn it himself. That's the kind of boy he is. Hard as the stones of the Judean hills. And once he started thinking about it, he found a way. Life got worse. I admit I would have gone back if I hadn't been ashamed. Again and again I had to sell anything I could. Of course I tried to hide it from David. I can't be blamed for that. A child doesn't have to know everything. But he knew it, and he started to hate me. I didn't think a 10-year-old boy could stand the strain of so much hard work. But he took it, and he grew up. One day he even invented a new way to deliver the laundry, and everything might have turned out all right if there hadn't been an accident. And when I heard what happened and how David took it, I wasn't angry at all. Instead, I wanted to take him in my arms and kiss him. I was very proud of my David. But he himself said absolutely nothing. In fact, I'd never have known about it at all if the neighbors hadn't told me afterwards. David suddenly learned what a hard struggle life can be. And he learned it much earlier than other children. The last straw was the bill for the broken shop window. I I didn't have the cash to pay for it, so there was nothing left to do but sell something else. But what? David must have felt the trouble coming, and he did about the biggest thing he could. He gave me the little pile of change he saved to pay his fare back to Eshtal. Naturally, it was next to nothing. I needed much more than that. The trouble was I couldn't find anything left worth selling. Suddenly I realized the only thing I could do. When David saw that I was going to sell his mother's necklace, everything that was bottled up inside exploded. I never saw him in such a fury before. He ran at me like a wild beast. He didn't defend his dream anymore, he defended his mother. Maybe I hit him. I don't know. I only remember that when I came back, there wasn't a trace of David or Malka. She must have asked him not to leave her alone. We started looking for them, but at heart I knew what had really happened. Police and asked them to look for them. I told them there was only one place they could be, in the Judean hills on the way to Eshtal. That was David's goal. It wasn't the usual story of children running away from their home and parents. I knew it was a case of a child running home. It was a return. He went back to the only place where he was really rooted, to the only place where he could grow. He went back like an animal, like the nanny goat, without thinking of being afraid of hunger or thirst or night. Straight home. Dreadful night was like the 40 years of wandering in the desert for me. And if there is a dawn, I've paid dearly for it. That's my whole story. Or should I say the story of David, my son. Today I'm certain that it had to happen this way.